undo under pressure. Oh, yeah, I've been wanting this forever.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. This is Brad, and I'm with my wife, Tiffany. Good morning, Tiffany.
Good morning.
We are the host of the Hustle and Flow podcast, and just coming to you this morning, we're going to be talking about your emotional cup. And if you're married, man, you're going to understand this one because your emotional cup can get filled up real quick. And we're going to talk about how that affects your life and how it affects your marriage and how maybe to empty that and kind of work through and find some positive emotions. But hey, anything happening your way, Tiff? What's going on? Anything specific that we've had so much going on that we can just filter through a whole bunch?
Yeah, still a lot of indoor activities because it's still hot. We had those 3 days that felt great, and now I think it's back to like maybe 97 today. Because I care about the weather all the time. I realize that I'm the whatever insurance company that is that helps old people not act as old.
Oh yeah.
I saw myself in the guy that was looking out the window at the weather, but it's an interesting day. We're talking about emotional cup and how it correlates to marriage, but we were talking about our granddaughter's emotional cup with Pastor Mike, our visit with her last night. And even at 2.5, her little emotional cup is full of negative emotions right now. She's changed schools and she's not dealing with it well, and her little emotional cup is overflowing with some of the things we'll talk about today, with all the big emotions. And
she's a big emotion girl to begin with.
Yeah.
She's bigger than life, and she is like her mother. Her mother, I remember one time we were out of town and we asked a friend of ours to stay with them, and he thought that Dixie was rehearsing for a play. And what it was is just her having her big emotion.
Yeah.
And he said, I thought she was rehearsing for some play at school. But so she's like her mom. She's like her grandmother. I'm not sure about the other grandmother, exactly how big emotion she has, but I know you have big emotion too. But yeah, she's experiencing a world of change at 2.5, and it's taken a rather sweet, I don't want to say mild-mannered, but a sweet girl, and turned her into...
She's spicy. I told her last night, I kept telling her she was spicy. She kept saying, I'm not spicy. I said, no, you are. You're spicy.
That's it. It's taking that sweet girl and turned her into a spicy girl because she's not dealing with the change.
Yeah. Then the other change is that we have a new grandbaby.
Yes, we do.
But she has a new cousin, and she does not like him.
No.
At all. It's funny. We've tried twice to introduce her, and neither time. So we're just, I'm kind of like of the opinion of like, let's ease back and let her do this at her pace. But
well, she was more interested in petting the cat the other night than talking to her cousin.
Yeah.
And we asked her, do you like your cousin? She said no.
No.
I said, okay. I said, well, here, touch JB. And she would not. But now I take that back. She did, because we said if you'll touch him, you can have a gummy bear. So she kind of like petted him real quick so she could get her gummy bear, and that's really all she cared about. I got a picture of me holding her the other night and holding JB in my other arm, and I think I took 5 pictures, somebody did. And you can see in every picture she is going opposite from him, trying to get away, because it's like a lot of change. Great change for us. We got a new grandson, John Bradford, and 2 weeks old yesterday, doing great. Mom's doing great. Fun change for them. Mom loves to sleep, and she's not getting a whole lot of that. But
yeah, she said he's getting up every 2 hours. I said, that's all?
Wow, that's pretty impressive, And but he's starting to wake up. He was 3 weeks early, but man, he's starting to wake up. His big old eyes are looking around. But anyway, so we want to jump in this morning and talk about your emotional cup. Now, give me some background about maybe where this come from, our experience with it, and then let's just jump in there.
Well, I think the emotional cup, for one thing, this is something we're talking about in the marriage classes that we're doing on Wednesday night. This will be what we'll talk about next. So it's fresh on our mind right now, and I'm excited about the marriage conference that we have coming up September the 6th 5th and 6th.
6th and 7th.
6th and 7th.
Friday and Saturday.
That didn't sound
Friday night, Saturday morning.
But, because the emotional cup can determine how you interact with your spouse and your intimacy level. And we're talking about intimacy right now in our marriage classes on Wednesday nights. But your emotional cup can affect your intimacy level with your spouse. I was thinking about this a second ago. I wonder too if we have different size cups. Like some people, I wonder if they have a really small cup. It doesn't take a lot. But like if some people have the big gulp cup, the 32 ounce, and like and maybe even as marriage grows, your cup can get bigger. Like what filled up my cup negatively 5 years deep in marriage doesn't fill up my cup now at 33 years in marriage. So I think your cup can definitely, your capacity for your cup of like negative stuff can grow. But we're going to be talking about the overflow of whether it's filled up negatively with negative emotions or whether it's filled up with positive emotions, and kind of how you can identify that.
Yeah. Wait. That's actually a good thought, and I'm glad you brought that up, thinking about different size cups, because I think that's right. I think the more you're married, the longer you are married, or the longer you go through things together, and you work through experiences, you work through issues, you work through loss, you work through problems, I think that it does expand your cup. And I think that when you're first married, unless you have really good premarital counseling, and listen, I'm going to say this, we need good premarital counseling. If you're getting married, you need to go find people who are qualified and let somebody talk to you about being married. And it's not they're trying to get up in your business, it's that they're trying to save you heartache. But that being said, most people don't do premarital counseling.
Yeah.
They look and they fawn over how good you look in a pink body glove jumpsuit. That was us. I liked how you had the pink body glove jumpsuit. I wished you still had it. But
oh my gosh.
Oh man.
I don't.
I do. But anyway, that or your cat suit. But anyway, I digress. I'm going backwards. But I think that when you're first married, that cup is real small. It's more like a if you drink espresso, it's more like espresso. Like it's that 2 ounce Doppio cup.
It's like that little mouthwash cup that they have in Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And I think why I thought that is because this is I heard this week. So somebody that has been married a very short amount of time was talking about their jealousy, and they have just enraging jealousy, and they were in a restaurant and their spouse's ex was there, and they couldn't even eat their food.
Right.
And they've been married a few years. And so my thought, being married at 33 years, is that if I now, and I know I was jealous when we were married, because I remember that. Remember how jealous I was when you were going to ICC and that whole day? Like, it was a terrible day.
Yeah. That's a defining moment in my life. I remember that day. Because I think you had an
ex-girlfriend that went to ICC, and there's just no way she could be on the same campus as you when we were first married.
Yeah.
And so, but I thought the last time that when I was talking to these people, I was thinking, now, if we're in a restaurant and your ex is there, like, I would invite them over, like, share our appetizer, and I'm not going to lose a second of like not eating my food for sure. That's not going to waste. And so I was just thinking about that. About yes, your cup I think can be bigger because we'll talk about jealousy as one of the overflows of anger from your cup being full of negative emotions, but my capacity now for some of that is very, very large, as to where my cup was a lot smaller back then. Yeah.
And I'm not losing food over your ex.
No.
I can tell you right now,
no.
if your ex is cooking the steak, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you might say, hey, bro, come over here and sit down and let's talk. But like, I'm not going to turn food down because somebody else cooked it. So yeah, I'm not that person anymore. But so all right. So let's just jump in. Let's talk about your emotional capacity. We've just been talking about that there, but you can only hold so much emotion before it spills out. Now, tell me your thought on that particular thing, that you can only hold so much. It goes back to the size. Yes.
Yeah.
But.
Well, your cup, like we're saying, like if you're filling it up negatively, with your spouse, it can be from a little bit of, he or she didn't notice this, or, I've been trying to get their attention and they've been on their phone a lot lately. Mm-hmm. We've not had a date night in forever, and I'm always the one that plans it. We had plans to do something, and he or she changed them to go do something with their mom and them, or their friends, or somebody else. Those little things, and there's big things too sometimes, but those little things, they layer and they layer and they layer when we're not resolving them, until eventually it is going to spill out, mm-hmm. and it's going to overflow for sure. Now your cup can be full with positive stuff too. When things are going great, and we all have those seasons, then it's layered with, oh my gosh, I got a surprise gift. He knows that's my favorite candy bar and he brought it home. Or, he planned a surprise dinner out. He knows I love it when he picks up his hats and I don't have to see them, and there's not a hat in sight, because that bothers me. We've talked about that so many times. Yep. And so those things can fill the cup up positively. So if your cup is full positively, then of course you're gonna have an overflow of love and joy and peace and harmony mm-hmm. in your relationship. But going back to the negative, which is what we'll talk about a lot today, because you don't really need to fix it. There's no fix or work through necessarily when it is full of the positive stuff. Mm-hmm. So the fix is realizing your cup is full of negative stuff and how you can empty out your cup today. So I think that's it. I mean, you can only hold on to so much of that stuff before it's filled up negative. Now, like I know for me at times, those little things will fill it up, but you can have something big to fill it up all at once, of course.
Such as,
we talked about the fire emojis. You put a fire emoji on somebody's something, or, something like that. You make a promise to me and you break it. Like, some of those big things can fill it up all at once, I think.
How about an affair?
Yeah, I was thinking
an affair will fill your cup up quick.
Some people are going to say, well, no, that just there's, that destroys the cup, the cup or whatever. Because, but yes, I think an affair, breaking confidence, lies, those kind of things can definitely fill it up fast.
I think so too. As you were talking there, we were talking about having that you can fill it with positive emotions too. But if you think of the concept, a lot of the time, most people who have this cup, and we all have the emotional cup, okay, but if you never empty the cup, then what you have is you have positive emotion on top of a bunch of negative emotion. And so you may get, if it spills over, let's just say it tips just a little, okay? Well, if you have positive emotion on top of the negative, you may get a little positive emotion and may say, hey, you know what, that's cool, we're good. But if the cup is tipped too much, then all of a sudden, all the positive that you've put and deposited on top of it is going to be eroded, because it's all the stuff in the cup that's coming out. And so I think today we really need to kind of just dive in and talk about emptying the negative part of the emotion, because it's easy to put positive stuff in. If we're gelling, we're jamming, we're getting along, and you're being nice and I'm being nice, and I thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for doing that, and I love you, and you look great, and you smell great, and life is good. And that's easy to put that in the cup, because, and you know this, we've talked about this, whenever your marriage is good, it's easier for your marriage to be good. But when you are filled with negative emotion in your cup, even if you have positive things you're depositing in, it goes back to your emotional capacity. Mm-hmm. If it's already full and you only have an inch worth left in your cup of positive emotion, you've got a lot of stuff underneath that you got to work out.
Yeah, because, I mean, if your cup is full of unhealthy emotions, the overflow is bitterness, resentment, anger, guilt, fear, anxiety. So when you have all that, just like you were saying, yes, when you have that, those symptoms do prevent you from feeling positive emotions, because you can have that positive stuff that is also being put in there, but you're blocked from being able to experience that because of the unhealthy emotions that your cup is full of.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you've got to, and we're going to talk about how to empty that cup, but you've really got to identify, have you ever just, said something out of line to your spouse and it had nothing to do with what they just did, but it was because something was eating at you on the inside, and all of a sudden, well, I call it emotional vomit. You just emotionally vomit all over your spouse, and they're like, what the heck are you, where did this come from? You're like, well, if you were nicer, and it's really got nothing to do with them. It's that you've got your cup full of whatever is driving you that you've not emptied, and you think about some of the side effects of having an emotional cup that's full of negativity. One of the things that can happen is sleep or appetite disturbance. If you're full of negativity, it's hard to sleep, or it's hard to eat. Just like that, just like the person we were talking about, I can't eat. Yeah,
and that's a life I can't imagine.
Which part?
Appetite disturbance.
Okay.
There's not much that's ever disturbed my appetite. I'm just not wired that way.
Right.
But sleep, people say sleepless nights. I couldn't sleep last night because this is all I thought about. I mean, that happens. Physical symptoms of, anxiety attacks, ulcers, blood pressure.
I'll go one for men, erectile dysfunction. Because whenever you have negative emotion and it's there, it can cause your body to not perform well, even in the bedroom. So then that causes its own host of problems. Mm-hmm. So there's physical symptoms.
Yeah, there's definitely physical symptoms associated with this, negative overflow and stuff.
Because it just eats at you. It eats at you, and if you don't empty it, loss of energy, concentration. You just kind of aimlessly wander around and. I'm tired today. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm tired. And I get tired. Do you ever get tired?
Yeah.
But every day I'm not tired. I'm like our granddaughter. I'm not tired. I'm not tired. I'm not tired. Every day, if you find yourself there, then you've got to realize that maybe there's some emotion that's tied to that's driving you to keep you tired.
I think that negativity is draining. I think it does drain you and it exhausts you. But on the other hand, I think when you're full of positive stuff, and the joy from that, it can fuel you even when you may even be tired or have a reason to be tired. But I do think it's draining when you're.
Well, you think about negative people.
Yeah.
Negative people are draining.
Yeah.
And it's just like the drag on the economy, man. It's like the wet blanket. You know what I mean? You remember Saturday Night Live? It's Pat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Or no, who was it? I can see her. But anyway, whatever you said, she would always say the negative part to it.
Yeah, that wasn't It's Pat. It was somebody else.
No,
yeah.
I can see her. But wah, wah, you know what I'm saying? And it was just like the drag on the economy. And do we all, does everybody, can I tell you that I walk around every day and I'm just high-fiving everybody and just kicking it, man, it's all good, I'm positive? No, I'm not. There's days that I suck. There's days that I'm not positive. I have negative attitude. And you'll tell me, hey, you're being negative. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So then I realize, yes, you are. You're being negative. And so, but it's a drain.
Yeah. And I mean, you can also find yourself, I think, and this one probably is, a lot of us, even sometimes, me, like I can definitely see some of this. You escape into work or drugs, affairs, pornography. I know that work has always been my my, since I've suffered from being a workaholic.
It's your drug of choice.
Yes, it is. And so it is very easy for me to escape into that. And since my job is a job that I don't say have to work, all my waking hours, I get to work. Any of my waking hours, I can indulge myself in that whenever I feel like it.
Right.
So, but it's easy to escape into, of course, social media is a huge escape tool now, but you can find yourself just escaping.
Right. Depression, that's another thing. And I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand, I'm not saying that everybody who's depressed is because it's all the negative emotion that has affected them. There's clinical depression, things like that are legitimate. I'm just saying that these are some things. Quick temper, impatience, I never have that. Like I'm easygoing, quiet, I'm long-suffering. I'm never quick-tempered or impatient.
Well, but
that's not true.
But what these things are is to say, like, if you find yourself more quick-tempered, snapping at your kids, snapping at, fast food workers, snapping at anybody, the dog, more often and more quickly than you normally do, then it is. It's a symptom. Like if you have a symptom and you have a fever, it's a symptom of something. Mm-hmm. So that's what these things are. They're symptoms of something. So you have to do the checkup and go, okay, what's going on here? Maybe it's my cup. My cup's full. I got to empty my cup. Controlling behavior, being obsessive, compulsive. I don't know why you're laughing.
You know why I'm laughing.
Not compulsive.
You're not compulsive.
Obsessive.
You're obsessive. So those two words together, but you are the obsessive.
I can be obsessive.
Yes.
But my obsessive is because I'm obsessive. It's not because I'm mad or angry or have a full cup.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Loss of affection and romance. Look.
And you would think, well, that's just a given. But
not really.
Yeah, not necessarily. Yeah.
So those are just some symptoms, like what happens when your negative or your emotions are full of negative energy, negative emotion. Your cup's full. When your emotional needs aren't met, you will not experience intimacy if they're not met. You're going to find disappointment, pain, loss. But what happens when you get your needs met emotionally?
Yeah, I mean then it's like you're back grooving and you can experience intimacy again because you'll go through that stage of just feeling like you're not connected and like you're not on the same page, and that is a symptom too of the overflow of the negative emotions. But
we're talking about sometimes you're not on the same page. There's sometimes you're not even in the same book.
Yeah.
Like, and it really just bleeds over that unmet needs, they're masked in anger, and you just go crazy. But I like this. It's easier to be angry than admit we're hurt. Why? Why do you think that is? Why is it easier just to be mad all the time?
Well, I don't necessarily look at it like that it's just easier. I think that we don't want to be vulnerable sometimes and tell our spouse, you try to suck it up or you maybe try to move on, but realize you're just not moving on because you don't want to be vulnerable and say like, hey, that really hurt me or that really bothered me. Because going back to, emotional needs being unmet, we all have emotional needs. And you said they're disappointment, pain, and loss. If you didn't meet my needs because of you disappointed me, because you broke a promise, or pain because you hurt me and you lied to me, or loss because you no longer are affectionate towards me, or you're not giving me attention, and you're not prioritizing me, those emotional needs being unmet definitely turn into this anger that we use as a tool instead of saying, hey, I really miss, time that we had together, and you putting me at the bottom of the shelf now instead of the top of the shelf has hurt me and it's wounded me. Or, hey, like, you've been telling me we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and then you always find something else to do, and you break promises to me, or, you know, you lied to me. You told me that you weren't going to do this again, and you did it, or you told me this didn't happen, but it did. Instead of just talking about those things and being honest and saying, you know, it did hurt me or it did bother me, instead we just mask it, and it does become anger, and then that's the overflow of all the stuff.
Yeah. But you know, anger, I think when you say anger, people think, well, that's just people being unhinged. They're just mad and ranting and raving and whatever. And that's not just there's many forms of anger. You know, anger is a quick temper. You know, if you're quick tempered, that's just the way I am. My daddy was that way. Well, your daddy was angry about something, that his emotional cup was full of some negative stuff that he didn't deal with. So I don't care if, you know, generational stuff is passed on. Why don't you undo it? You know, if daddy was quick-tempered, you don't have to be quick-tempered. You can be meek, mild. You can be long-suffering. And you can learn how to do something different. You know, jealousy. You talked a little bit about that anger can come out in jealousy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and especially like if you don't feel like you're getting very much attention and that you're not priority, then you can become jealous of not even just people in your spouse's life, but the things they do, their work, their hobbies. You know, I'm going to say this: you can be jealous of your husband's or your wife's ministry, because sometimes that's not put in its proper ministry, and you know, is not put in its proper place.
We've dealt with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we'll just be honest and transparent. We've dealt with that. It is and I think it goes back to sometimes we confuse God and church.
Yeah.
And you don't know, what am I supposed to do? I got to be a good boy or a good girl. I got to do the things of God because God's going to be mad at me if I don't do this. And God's up there thinking, hey, come on, bro. Pay attention to your husband. Pay attention to your wife. That's priority, you know?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Jealousy. I think impatience.
You know, we know of somebody that on their birthday dinner, they went and was out in the foyer on the phone the whole time, and they were talking to a church member because their daughter was dating a boy that they didn't like, and they were getting serious, and they ditched their spouse at their birthday dinner for that. So if I'm the spouse,
happy birthday.
I'm now, I'm creating, you know, my cup is very full, and I am jealous of the people in the church that get my spouse's time instead of me on some, you know, an occasion like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So anger has many forms. It's not just ranting and raving and being unhinged like Russell Crowe. Remember the movie Unhinged? Where he went in and tried to kill everybody. So it's not that. It takes many forms because it comes from the emotion, the negative emotion that's in your cup that you've not emptied. So how do you resolve it?
I think you have to identify the hurt, identify what it is. When you see yourself acting out in some of these ways, being jealous or being quick-tempered or withholding affection, whatever it is, I think you have to identify the hurt and say, okay, what is it here? Is it one thing? Is it three things? And and you've got to empty those negative feelings out and look for resolve. You've got to go to your spouse and say, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm seeing these things in myself and I do not like them, but I've identified where it's coming from and we need to talk. Yeah. Nobody likes to hear we need to talk, but you got to say, hey, we need to talk.
I'm going to disagree. I think that women don't mind we need to talk. Men despise we need to talk.
Is there a better way is there something y'all would prefer more?
You know, that's a great question. I don't know that that's ever been posed in the history of men.
It's probably, maybe, but like, what would you prefer? Like,
because, you know, the old joke is, if your wife says we need to talk, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble now. But if you tell your wife, hey, we need to talk, she can say, oh no, we don't. And then you're like, I don't guess we do, you know? So I don't know. It's a good question. How could you phrase that differently? Because I'm going to tell you, if your wife, men can identify with this. If your wife comes to you and says, hey, we need to talk, you automatically know it's not good. It could just be that, hey, you know, I don't really like going to that restaurant. Let's do something different. But in a man, it strikes fear because they're like, here we go. Here we go.
So you automatically think, well, if mama ain't happy, nobody ain't happy, and
you automatically your mind automatically tells you mama's not happy.
Yeah.
And I've screwed it up again. And here we go. And I'm gonna have to take my lumps, and I'm in trouble, and it's gonna be bad. And I'm telling you, that's
I would say to that, just don't get in trouble, like stay out of trouble. But
okay. You ever met men? But I'm being honest. That really strikes fear in men is that we need to talk. But see, this is the way I think of it. Because I do not mind confrontation. I love to always keep the air clear. I don't think that your confrontation has to be ugly or mean. I just never mind to clear the air. And because I feel like it makes things better. I don't like a full cup. And so the way I think of it is when your spouse says, hey, I need to talk, or we got to talk, or let's talk, it's that they are invested enough in the relationship and they care enough about the relationship that they want their cup to be emptied out with any things they have against you. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Bible even says you got to go to somebody when they mess up. Right.
But they care enough and they're invested in a relationship that they want to go back to harmony and to peace and to gelling with you and vibing with you and having intimacy with you. And so this is actually an opportunity for you to do better next time. If you did mess it up, it's an opportunity. That's what.
No, and trust me, I see that. I do see that. And if men could grab a hold of that concept, is that not everybody's that way. Some women are not that way. But for the most part, that your wife wants to make things better and clear the air with you. But most men don't think that way. Most men, and it's no excuse. Okay, it's not an excuse. Most men are under immense pressure. They lay awake at night. How am I going to pay this? How am I going to take care of this? How am I going to not let down the people who depend on me? And I'm telling you, man, men think that kind of way. And so one more thought of I've let my wife down. One more thought of how am I going to now hold up all the pillars of my life, and then on top of that, the most important person in my life is got problems too. I'm just telling you, and this sounds crazy, but men rather walk out in traffic and try to dodge traffic than have a conversation sometimes. But I do think you're right. I think you have to have that conversation. You have to identify the hurt.
Well, okay, so bouncing off of what you said men hate that because of all the other pressures they have. But here's the thing. Who normally is a man's safe place?
Yeah, normally.
So it really, in the long run, is beneficial when you can get the air cleared and the whatever. Like, then you're back in harmony, and you can come home. And there's something about was it a woman in a rooftop or I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I always mess up.
I mean, the scripture you're talking about, just rather be easier to dwell on a rooftop than with a contentious woman.
Yeah, okay, so when you've got peace in your marriage again, then that can be a safe, soft place for you when you're coming in from all those pressures of the world. Confess it. And, and then I'm big on owning your part. I had a family member that went through the steps of AA, and we talked a lot about that person. They would say, I've got to own my part in this. So sometimes you've got to own your part too. Even if I'm coming to you and saying, hey, when you told me we were going to play pickleball Saturday, but then you forgot and told your bros y'all go meet, and play golf or whatever, you let me down. And then, if my part was, you said that you'd like to go, but we didn't actually make plans, that I would have to own my part. Well, I did say that, or, whatever.
Right. But
own your part. And then you got to forgive. Forgive means you got to let it go. Forgive means you got to absolutely empty that cup out, though. I was talking to somebody else because we, in the marriage class, we've been talking about different things, and we talked to other married couples, and they said, well, I keep going back to the past, and I keep bringing up the past. Well, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting your marriage when you do not completely empty out the cup and you keep old things hanging around in the bottom of the cup.
And I think that's it. I think that's a really good place to end on, is that you have to completely forgive. It's not partial forgiveness. Like if your spouse comes to you in a true spirit of saying, look, I hear you. I hear what I've done to you, and I am sorry. Genuine repentance. Genuine, I'm sorry, not, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, no, don't do a woman, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's not funny.
Yeah, I know. That's our joke. But, really, really say, look, I'm sorry. I hurt you. And confess it and forgive it. Just start over with a clean slate. No, don't collect grievances and think, I'm just going to keep a few of these. I'm just going to keep a few of these burrs.
This will be good. I'll use this one next time.
I'm telling you what, yeah. If you've ever had a burr in your foot or anything like that, like a bone spur, it's obnoxious. So grievances are like bone spurs. You just obnoxious. You have to let all of it go. Empty the cup and give your dingle-headed husband a chance to fill it up with some positive stuff.
Yeah, because, remember, we are supposed to be Christ-like and imitate Christ. If God forgets our junk, then who are we to keep hanging on to each other's? We've got to let it go.
Yeah, and that's not easy. So what we're telling you is that this is not an easy concept, but you do have to realize that you have an emotional cup, but your partner also has one as well. And so when you're seeing things that are hanging out there that just maybe aren't characteristic of who that person really is, you need to think, okay, hey, what's in their cup? Let's see if we can get to the bottom of it and empty this junk out so we can get back to jamming again.
Yeah, fill your positive cup up with remembering all the great things about your spouse that you love. Even when you do something that frustrates me, I think, okay, like this man goes out of his way to help me. He knows when I'm struggling and picks up the slack. He asks me every single day, like, how are you today? How's your blood pressure? That's recently, you ask me 3 times a day. Like, you'll ask me, what do you need from me today? And like, I don't take those things for granted. Gratitude for your spouse can fill your cup up with positive stuff quicker than you can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, good stuff. I'm going to tell you that was the best part of the podcast right there is the last part. I mean, it really, really was. And so thank you so much for listening this morning. Hey, listen, I'm telling you, your marriage is paramount. God wants your marriage to succeed. Well, you don't know what we've been through. I don't, but I can tell you right now, you can turn this thing around and just go to your spouse and have genuine forgiveness. And you'll see some amazing things happen. Hey, listen, if you are struggling today, find somebody who's going in the direction you want to go. Hop in the flow with them, and you'll see your life change. Thank you so much for listening this morning. Y'all have a great day.
Hey. Yeah, let's see how you do under pressure. Oh. Wanted this forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey, yeah, ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm cashed.